Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi, my name is Shalaby and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm so glad that she said Shalaby B. Because otherwise, if you say it too close, it sounds like Shalaby, and then afterwards you're like, hey Shalaby, it was really good to hear you. And then I'm like... So it used to be N, so then at least there was no, confusion there. So anyway, I'm really grateful to be here. And before I get all wrapped up in me, I want to thank Corrine for asking me and the rest of the committee, because you had to preview my CD before you said, come on down. And so I appreciate that. And Ron and I were talking, was through the line, and we were talking about, I'm still... This is Sunday, spiritual speaker. I'm like, wow, really? You're asking me for Sunday? Are you sure? Like, I'm kind of a Friday night gal. I don't know about spiritual in nature, but no. What I've come to realize is that, the spirituality that comes from being sober in Alcoholics Anonymous may not sound what people think it might sound like. I know that it sounds for me different than it does for others. And I know that, there have been times I've heard people like, well, they didn't really talk enough about God at the Sunday spiritual speaker. If you can't hear God in the things I'm talking about, then you might not have a relationship with your own. If you can't hear the steps and the things that I'm talking about, then you probably haven't taken them. So, I know. I was praying, and one of the things, I was on the phone the other day with, I don't know who, Bill, someone, I don't know. And so I know, we just bought a new car. So I was talking to the finance gal on the phone. And so I'm writing down the things that I need to say. And at the very top of the paper, I wrote, be nice. Because it escapes me at times. I totally relate. So it's like I sometimes have to do really physical things to remind myself just to be nice. My husband tells me all the time how I don't have any compassion. Except for with children, because I'm a teacher, and he's like, you don't have any compassion. He's always telling me that, and then I say to him things like, I've never met anybody who needs the amount of compassion that you do. So maybe you need to take a look at that. I don't know, but and that's one of the nicer things I say to him. So. We got into a big fight before I left, so he's like, oh, why don't you share that on Sunday? And I said, probably will. So, but I do want to thank the committee, and as soon as I got here, I let Corrine know that I was here, and she invited us down, and I got to meet some of the members of the committee and have dinner with everybody, and I'm going to tell you that I was really excited to speak at Mad Dog Days, and not because I've ever been here, or not because I think my sponsor spoke here a couple years ago, but the reason why I even know about it, because I'm from Lancaster, which we're the opposite desert of you. You guys are low desert, we're high desert. So the only difference is that we get a little bit of snow in the winter. That's the only difference. The weather is about the same, except for this particular weekend, with all the humidity. You walk outside and you're like, I can't breathe. And but I used to listen to a lot of, I still do. Now they're CDs, though, or flash drive. It used to be tapes. I noticed that Pam keeps saying tapes, because that's what I say. Oh, do you want to hear the speaker tape? And somebody's like, I don't have a cassette player. I'm like, well, no, I have it on CD, flash drive. So, but I still say tapes. It's like records. Oh, yeah, I got that record. And somebody's like, what are you, old? What's a record? But I was listening to a tape, and it was of Johnny Harrison. It was the first time I had ever heard Johnny, and he was at Mad Dog Days, because that's what it said on the front of the tape. And he was talking about doing panels through H&I. And I was actually on my way to my panel at Warm Springs, which is the men's facility I went into for 13 years until they shut it down. And I was on my way, and he said, the only reason that you miss your panel is if you die on the way there. And Warm Springs is on this crazy road, right? It's all like, you know, and I'm like, what if I die on the way there, you know? But that's how I knew about Mad Dog Daze. So when Corrine asked me, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. And I don't even know why. Like, it's, you know, like it's not, it's just that's how I knew about you guys, you know, and so, you know, it's, I like, Patio talks a lot about when my sobriety can touch your sobriety, and that's what you guys have done for me. You know, I didn't meet Patty until, I don't know, I had like 9 years of sobriety, but I had been listening to her since I was new. And I remember when I met her, I gushed over her like she was a celebrity, you know, like we saw like Tommy Lee, the drummer from Motley Crue, at like the farmer's market one day, and I said to my husband, I'm like, I don't care. I meet Patty, and I'm like, oh my God, I just totally want to. I remember that part in your story when you're talking about, you know, and I'm like giving back her story to her, and she's like, oh, I haven't told that story in a while. I'll tell it tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, you know. Because her sobriety touched my sobriety, and it did something to me, and it changed. And one of the things that it did for me is, like her and Larry T, is that they made me laugh. They made me laugh, and I thought, you know, I remember being new, and I remember sitting at this meeting at the Rafters, and it was like it was the first time I ever qualified as an alcoholic. I had been to a few meetings the day before, but I had just said my name is Shalaby, and, you know, everyone just goes, keep coming back. You know, I don't want to say I'm an alcoholic. And, but on that third day of sobriety, my friend Meg was taking cakes. It was her birthday, so I was on her cake tour with her. And so we went down to the Rafters, and if anybody's ever been to the Rafters in Santa Clarita, it looks like the inside of a cabin. Like, I don't know if you're at summer camp. It's all woody inside, and so we got there late because Meg was late for everything, which was great because if you were late to most meetings, right in the very front of the meeting is when they ask for anybody with less than 30 days. So if you're late, then you don't have to, I'm an alcohol. You don't have to say that. So we got there late, yay. And so, and they have tables that are set up like this. And so I'm sitting over here, and there was a gal that got up to the podium, and she made everybody laugh. I have no idea what she said, but I just thought, you know what, this is not funny. There is nothing funny about having to be here and having to be sober, and, you know, and Nick stand up, and he's like, I don't want to, but I will. Thanks, Dad. And it's like, oh, great. So we're sitting there, and I'm sitting over here, and the leader of the meeting, I call it the stray dog theory. You know, when you hear people, they talk about like, you know, and then I got mauled by a pit bull. It's because they looked at, like they went to go touch it and stuff, you know, like, oh, you know, a pit bull, and then it mauls them. But a lot of times if you see that stray dog and you just like divert your eyes and look away, then you don't ever have to, he won't attack you. He'll just keep on trucking, right? It's the same thing if you're at a podium meeting, because that's the way the Rafters, most of their meetings are very similar to this. There's a podium and it's elevated off the ground, and there's a little light that illuminates behind you when you share. There's some praying hands, a little we care, you know, all that great stuff. And but I accidentally make eye contact with the leader of the meeting. And so he looks at me and he's like, you! And I swear he's yelling, right? It's like, you know, and I'm like, oh my God! All of a sudden I feel like Han Solo in Star Wars when he walks into that one bar where it's like, dun, 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 and then all of a sudden it's like, you know, and they're all looking at. That's what I felt like. And I'm just looking at him, and I'm like doing this, like me, you know, and he's like, are you an alcoholic? And I'm like, okay, you know, I don't, like, get up here and share. Now, he probably didn't sound like that at all, you know, but in my head, I'm so raw. I haven't drank in 3 days. I have no idea why this guy is yelling at me. It's crazy. I come on up. And I said, and so, you know, unlike, I don't know, from the time I was really new, my friend Meg brought me to what she called safe church meetings, no groups, no halls, everything was small, because she was kind of training me. She wasn't my sponsor, but she was training me on what was appropriate in Alcoholics Anonymous. Last night, because I have the baby, and I'll tell his story in a minute, he's all because of AA. We were sitting in the very back row of the half measures section of the meeting last night, and Ooh, that's a moving and shaking. Not tonight. I mean, not today. You can tell everybody. I've seen you guys all weekend, but it was like the treatment center retread. I got to check my phone, Candy Crushing area of the meeting, and woo. Julie and Hilda were back there with me, and we were just like, ah! It was. Now I know why I sit up front, because then I have no idea what's going on behind me. I have no business knowing what's going on behind me. And that's the way I was trained from the time I was really new in Alcoholics Anonymous, is that, you come in and early doesn't mean the meeting starts at 6, you get there at 5:59. That's late. That's not on time. That's late. You need to be there at least 15 minutes ahead of time. My current sponsor, same thing. She likes a half an hour. I'm like, you're a little obsessive. Anyway, and half hour after too. And so that's what on time means, is that you need to be there early, because you need to chat with your people that you always do, but you also need to be aware if there's new people in the meeting. And we know when there's somebody new in the meeting, because if you go to the same meetings every week, inadvertently they're going to sit in your seat. And although today I'm not going to tell you to get out of my seat, I am going to give you the, movie theater look. I'm probably going to do a couple of walk-bys, look at my chair that you're sitting in, go get water. Hopefully you'll go out and smoke, and I'll take it. Just saying. And But those were the things that I was taught from the very beginning. Getting up in my chunky shoes in the middle of the meeting to go get 15 cups of coffee, again and again and again and again and again. Like, wow, you're really thirsty. And then, getting to the meeting late and then doing a hug through all the way to all your people. That's nice. I actually spoke at a meeting where a gal came up, and I was right, and she just walked right here, and she stopped and did something, and then she went and sat down, and I was like, I didn't miss any words, but I just kept looking at her like, oh, so I'm trying to be nice, but I'll tell you right now, if I see your head down and your face is illuminated, I might call you out. I'm just saying, because I know you're texting. Or Facebooking, because I know how important it is that you get that information right now in the middle of the meeting. I know. Like, LOL. My sponsor didn't even know what side clicking was. I had to tell her, and she's like, I don't know, so-and-so, I keep trying to call them, somebody she sponsored, and it just it'll ring, and then it goes straight to voicemail. I'm like, oh, they're side clicking you. And she's like, side clicking? What does that mean? I said, well, that's when they look at the phone, because caller ID is a horrible idea for the alcoholic. And, I'll just talk of me. It's a horrible thing for me, because I'm like, well, she didn't call yesterday. No, now she's calling today. Oh, I better pick up. Click. I'll call her back later. And she's like, what does that mean? So I tell her that's what they're doing to you. And she's like, oh my gosh. So then one day, I don't know, my phone went straight over to voicemail. And she's like, were you side buttoning me? I said, it's side clicking, Marion, side clicking. I said, no, maybe. But so those were some of the things that when I was brand new, and so if somebody asked me to come up and share, even if I don't, I did. And I don't know that I had much to say. As a new person, we don't generally have much to say. Just putting that out there, guys that are new. I know you want to double and triple dip in the meeting because you want to add on to the last person that shared and then the person after that, or you want us to know that but you forgot to share in the last time that you shared 2 minutes ago that you didn't share that. And so the guy calls on me to come up and share, and I said, my name is Shalaby and I'm an alcoholic, and I don't know what one does to be sober or stay sober, and I'm really scared. And then that's when I realized after that meeting, you guys will hear whatever you want to hear when I talk. That goes for, have you ever had anybody quote you back at a meeting and you're like, oh, I don't say things like that. Doesn't even sound like me. And so this woman rushes up to me after the meeting. She's like, honey, it's okay if you don't think you're an alcoholic. And I said, And I turned my friend back. I said, did I say I didn't think I was an alcoholic? And she said, no. She's like, she's crazy. Don't listen to her. And I was like, okay. So I found out real quick. You guys are just, you'll hear whatever you want to hear. So that was, but I was really concerned about that because I knew I was an alcoholic before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. I did not have to come here and have you guys con me into becoming an alcoholic. I don't know that I was really aware of the disease of alcoholism, but I knew I had it. I knew I had it, and I knew I had it for years before I ever got here. And frankly, my idea was that I was hoping that I would drink myself to death before I would have to come to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I think only for an alcoholic of my variety that I would rather die than not drink. I would rather die. I would rather wish myself death than to have to not be drinking. And that's where I was January 6, 1998 when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous. The day before that, that's exactly where I was. I would have rather died than to concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic and that there is a solution. I don't have it, and it's not in my family. You know, you were talking about frothy emotional appeal. Seldom suffices. And that's what my parents, my family, the cops that pulled me over when I got the DUI, that's every single time somebody has talked to me about my drinking. Every single time. And it says it seldom suffices. And nothing that my mother could say to me, no matter how mean it was, no matter how loving it was, no matter where it came from, could do anything because she is not an alcoholic. She's not an alcoholic. She has no depth and weight because she doesn't know. She doesn't know. And she doesn't know how to talk to me, and she doesn't know how to give me a solution. And she just wants me to pull myself up by my bootstraps and roll on into AA. You know, or just stop drinking. I don't even think she cared if I came here. She just wanted me to stop drinking. And you know, I'm so grateful today. I'm so grateful today that I want to thank my friend Rebecca, who I also have the privilege of sponsoring. She's become the bright spot of my life. And if you don't have somebody who's the bright spot of your life, it's probably because you're not sponsoring anybody. And I'm not condemning in any way, because last year about this time, sponsees were fleeing me. I'm not judgmental in any way when it comes to. I'm going to tell you, I became very ill at Alcoholics Anonymous based on a single-minded obsession that was close to drinking, and it paralleled my drinking, and that obsession is now in the form of this little boy. And what had happened was a couple of years ago, I met my husband in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, the 13th step is not a step, it's a tradition. And if you're new and you don't know what the 13th step is, it's, you know, when somebody with time, you know, wants to hook up with somebody with no time, and you know, they like to call us predators, so my husband was in treatment, and I was on a panel, and so I love H&I. And we hooked up that day and got married. No, I'm just joking. Part of his story is that he leaned over to his friend Brandon, who was also, I think, his cabin mate, and said, you know, I'm going to go out with her one day. And I'm sure he's not the first guy in treatment who said that to his buddy, but I don't know. So Brandon likes to tell that story because both he and my husband are still sober today. And so he got out of Acton Rehabilitation Center. I was sponsoring a gal that he was in there with, and she used to tell me things like, Anthony thinks you're really hot. And I was like, wow, hot. It's not a word I used to describe myself. I must go to the meeting and find this person. And so for really unaltruistic reasons, I went to the meeting he was making coffee at, and I started going there regularly, and then he wouldn't talk to me. You know, it was like, you know, I teach 5th grade. It was like, you know, it's like a 10-year-old when a 10-year-old likes another 10-year-old. You know, they do weird stuff like ignore them or hit them. And you know, I'll be like, I thought you liked her. I do. I'm like, then why did you punch her, you know? Because she was talking to someone else, you know. Anyway. And so I guess I was just waiting for him to, like, punch me or something, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm in. And But instead, you know, he would just kind of ignore me every week. And what I found out later is that he was in the middle of an inventory, and his sponsor had asked him that he needed to finish the inventory and do the fifth step and, you know, get through his steps, and then, you know, maybe he could start talking to me. And, you know, but I'm impatient, and I had 9 years, so I don't have any, you know, emotional hang-ups, not in 9 years. And I couldn't date past 6 months. I don't have any emotional hang-ups, you know. I could be with somebody for about 6 months, and usually the red flags are jumping off right away, you know. It's like, well, it's not really a red flag. It's more like fuchsia or hot pink, you know. They'll get better with time and sponsorship, and because I like a newcomer. So my husband's not here, obviously, because he hates all these jokes. He's like, God, I hate when you... I'm like, yeah, whatever. And but anyway, we had spent, you know what, we spent our time, and we still do. Our entire relationship has been based in Alcoholics Anonymous. We spent an entire weekend at an alkathon together. Before we got together, we were together the entire time. We went to the H&I business meeting together, then we went out for lunch. Then he didn't take my phone number after I dropped him off at his sober living. And we're a match made in AA. And then I was a little perplexed because I thought we really hit it off. I was like, so weird. I can't believe he didn't ask for my phone number. Then he called me later on that night. I said, how did you get my number? He said, off the H&I list. I said, well, let me tell you. I said, if I didn't like you, I would give you this speech. That is not what the H&I list is for. That is for so you to ask people to go on panels with you, blah, 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 blah. Because, you know, he's not the first person to take a name off the H&I list and call for altruistic reasons. So, but I said, but because I like you, it's totally okay. So, and then we went out the next day, and he kissed me, and we've been together ever since. And, well, that's not true. Then last year, because of my single-minded obsession of having a baby, I mean, the two of us, you know, it wasn't like I was on that journey alone. We got married in March of 2011, and we had just miscarried maybe 3 months before that. And I'm able to get pregnant, but I wasn't able to stay pregnant. And so I could get to about 6 weeks, and then I would miscarry. And then we started doing fertility, and I was getting all the shots and doing... we did the IUI, which is the insemination, and we did that twice. And one was it was viable for about 6 weeks, and then I miscarried. The second one didn't take at all. And as it just seemed to be becoming more and more bleak, my attitude became more and more rageful. And my husband and I are very different. We're like the perfect storm, you know. My mouth, the things I say are extremely hurtful. My husband's actions are extremely hurtful. So he may not say a lot of stuff, but he does things that are very detrimental to our relationship. And then me, on the other hand, I don't do things, but I say a lot of things. And so, yeah, together we're just like, and so the darker that I became, the less sponsees I have, the darker I become. For whatever reason, God saw fit that I should start speaking more. And so he just started putting me into all these places. And I think because I started shrinking away from my own community, because it became increasingly more and more difficult to just, I don't know, tell people you're pregnant. Do you not tell them you're pregnant? Do you tell them you miscarried again? Do you just, you know, and it just became this whole thing. And I just became really consumed. And my sponsor told me that I should start talking about it. And I said, well, I don't even know if that's really about AA. And she's like, it's completely cutting you off from the sunlight of the spirit. How can it not be about you and Alcoholics Anonymous and what you're doing and not doing? So I started sharing about it, and you know, and I'm not a general way sharer, in case you haven't figured that out. And I don't know how to do those kind of lofty, you know, when you're in meetings and people share about something that, you know, and they're so general, you have no idea what they're talking about. You're like, did someone die, or do they have cancer, or did their husband leave them? Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think.
So, and then you just start making things up. You'll make up a story for them, which is never good. And so, because then if you share it with somebody else, now you're just gossiping. Well, this is what I think is going on with them. So, anyway, so he had given me an ultimatum in like April, and you know how well ultimatums go with the alcoholic. Well, you better. I'm like, oh yeah. So it was all bad, and I was trying, but I just couldn't. I couldn't. I was so sad, and my sadness does not look like it doesn't look sad. My self-pity oozes out like anger. When I feel sad and self-pitying about myself, it comes out in this very rageful way. And I'm quick, I'm sharp, I like to be sarcastic. It's my way of keeping you away from me, and those are the things that I did with my husband. And, you know, the book talks about that the hardest place for us to practice this program is in our homes. And that has been so true for me. And I don't know how to be a wife. I'm still not very good at it. I'm good at doing. I'm good at the doing part of it. I'm not good at the being part of it. You know, and the book talks about what God would have us be, what God would have us be. And I don't know how to be all the time. I can do lots of stuff. I can do a laundry list of things during a day and feel very satisfied that I got all those things done. But then if I have to look at my day in a real way, in that inside way, I fall short time and time and time again. You know, I like that, what was that, this prayer that Patty was saying she had started saying, it was years and years ago, but, you know, help me to what is it, to be treated today the way I treated people yesterday. Oh, no, oh, no, no. Because I don't always treat people well. And, you know, and that's 16 years of sobriety. 16 years of sobriety, and I do not always treat my family well. I do not always treat my husband well. I don't always treat my students well. But the thing that I know today is that as long as I don't drink, I got a shot at doing it better tomorrow. You know, because I am far better than I have ever been, but I am a far cry from where I'd like to be, you know, or where I think God would have me be. Because I don't think that this is the woman that God would have me be. I don't. I don't think that you know, being like, you know, like a maniac on Thursday before I leave and squandering the precious hours that I have with my husband who works so hard before I leave to come here, you know, and why is that? And those are the things that I have to constantly be looking at. Why do I do the things that I do? Why do I do the things that I do? So you know what? It's just, once again, pen to paper, pen to paper, pen to paper, you know? Oh, does that really work? Huh. Yeah. And I know that because it's been my experience. But it is the one thing that I will balk and balk and balk at. I don't want to do an inventory. I'm not going to do that, you know? And so I don't know, last year he left. He left me. He came home from work, I laid into him, and he's like, I am leaving. He was working at a treatment center, so you know how that is. You know, doing all his recovery with the residents. I'm like, really? Are you going to meetings on the clock and sharing? You know, because I'll just call you on the carpet. I don't care. And so he left. He moved out, and it was awful. It was awful, and I was very sad, and we were going to get divorced, and but you know, we were still watching movies. You know, like when somebody's like, "You want to go over to my house and watch a movie?" You know, and you're like, "Are we really going to watch a movie?" No, and that was how we ended up getting together. We went to watch movies, and so we were watching movies, and I ended up getting pregnant again, and then I miscarried. I know, and I miscarried, and I was actually speaking in Seal Beach and miscarrying. It was awful, and he didn't come to the doctor after I'd found out, and I was like, that's it, you know. Then 2 weeks later, we had watched movies again, and that's how we got Ezra. Because what had happened after I had miscarried that time before him is that I went to my sponsor the next day, and I said, I will never be pregnant again, ever! Yeah. So, and, you know, that's that thing, like, and I think that, you know, when you hear people talk about, you know, and everyone says, like, you know, Shalaby, if you just let that go, you know, if you just let that go. Oh, really? Because to me, it seemed like if I let it go, then I was losing hope. I was being hopeless, that I wasn't, but you know what, really it's not being faithful. It's not being faithful. And so when I took my hands off of it, and that's it, and I'm done, and I'm done. And that was the first time I had been done. since we had started this thing. And then 2 weeks later, I was pregnant with Ezra. And we didn't tell anybody that we were pregnant for a long time, not even my parents or his parents, because why? And then we decided that we were still going to get divorced. And, we went to my first doctor's appointment, and he's like, well, I still want to be divorced. And I was like, and I'd like to say, I was like, oh, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, if that's what you want, then you know what? You do it, because I do everything in this relationship. And if you want to be divorced, then you better be the one. And then there was some colorful language after, and then he left. And and then he called me for a date, which we have never dated because we've always been watching movies, and we moved in after like, I don't know, a month, and because when it's right, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew that he was the one for me. No matter what has happened, he's the one that, he completes me. No, he annoys me, and he's crazy, and I annoy him, and it's just like we have all of these things that, I sometimes I hear people share in meetings or speakers or certain things that I'm like, oh my God, doesn't anybody ever have any problems? Like, why does it always just sound like everything's like, and I'm so grateful, and I'm like, always, like, just doesn't seem real. My sponsor says things like, well, I never fight with David. I'm like, you're a liar. I've heard you. I've known her my entire sobriety. Like, I'm like, okay, maybe you guys don't cuss at each other, but I hear you. And, or maybe you're not fighting, but he is. So, January 6, 1998 is my sobriety date, and I started drinking when I was 13 years old, and 13 is young, and I was a baby when I started drinking. I mean, my students right now are 10, 11, 12 years old. I teach 5th grade, and I look at them, and I'm like, oh, yeah, they're going to be doing. Some of them will start drinking around the same time I did. And I knew I was going to drink long before I drank. There was no like, gosh, I wonder if. It was just whenever it presents itself. My dad drank, and he used to let me take pulls off of his beers, and so I knew, and I saw the change that it had on him, and I just knew that that's what I wanted to. Because my name is Shalaby, and I have red hair, and I go to school with Jason and Jennifer, and they have blonde hair, and and I just always feel like a freak all the time, My sister's name is Jessica. How come she gets to be Jessica and I have to be Shalaby, It just always felt like that. Like, I'm the kind of kid who can't even use the bathroom at school because somebody might hear me. As if I'm the only one. It always just feels like that. They would do those posters at school with everybody's birthday on them, and mine would be the only one in October. I swear to God, for years, I thought I was the only one. I was like, my God, is nobody else born in October? It's awful, I think when I finally met somebody, I'm like, oh my God, my people. And so, and I knew that once it presented itself, it was going to be on, and so it did. And somebody brought booze to school. I was in 8th grade, and so, but before I drank, and I've always had them, and I still have them, and Ron was talking about the committee. I call them, they're my character defects. They're my little angel and my little devil, and they sit here and they're alive and well, and they are right there, and they're always just chattering away. And this one over here, she sounds a lot like my mom, and she's over here going, Shalaby, if you drink, you're probably going to get busted. And I'm like, yeah. And then over here, he's like, come on, let's do it, and I'm like, oh my God, yes. Because he's louder than she is. He is always, and he's very exciting. I imagine he wears black, maybe leather. I don't know. Maybe he's in a gang. I don't know. It's like he's just, but he's very exciting to me. And he's the one that kind of frees me up from doing the right thing. The right thing that always just seems like it just seems such a burden all the time. And so I listen to him. The book talks about that the insane idea will always win out. And before I've ever even taken a drink, the insane idea would win out that day. And I took that drink, and sure enough, I'm busted right away, because there is nothing more obvious than 5 13-year-old girls huddled around a locker drinking out of a hairspray bottle to go, gosh, I wonder what they're doing, And so I get busted, and I get sent to the office, and my parents have to come and pick me up, and And, I think sometimes it's like I knew exactly the first time I sat down with my sponsor and read about pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And I knew exactly, I didn't have to go, let's go get a dictionary and look that up. I knew exactly what that was, because it was every time that somebody had to look at me with that way. The one that, I call them my 11s. I do them to my students. They're the two lines they're my two permanent lines from looking at 10-year-olds all day, asking them to stop doing whatever they're doing without having to say it, right? So like they do something crazy and I just look at them and I go, and so I shoot my 11s at them to make them stop. And because that's that look. That's pitiful, and that's the look my parents shoot at me when I walk in the door. They're just like, it's that look that looks like.
To obtain additional copies, receive a free catalog of AA and Al-Anon talks, or to find out about our tape and CD of the Month Club, call Encore Audio Archives at 1-800-878-1308, or visit our website at www.12steptapes.com.
Something smells bad. That's what pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization looks like. It looks like, and you're like, what? This isn't good. So, and I don't even know that I had any real consequences. Maybe I got suspended from school for that day or something, but I was a good kid, and so they let me come back, and I never said, and I'm never doing that again. I knew I was going to be doing that again. Like, I just knew. Anytime it would present itself, I would be right on. Actually, I would put myself into situations where it would present itself kind of regularly and naturally, And so my dad left. My dad left that summer, and he went and got a new family and a new girlfriend, and that was when my drinking started, and that single event would change the way that I would deal with men for the rest of my life. Until I met Anthony, and I'm sure that that's still a big reason why I struggle sometimes with just being so vulnerable with him and letting my guard down with him, is because of the relationship with my dad. And he left, and that just opened it. My mom wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and so I just started drinking as often as I could. And then she let him come back. I had just started my freshman year of high school, and I was on the flag team for marching band, and she let him come home. And in doing an inventory when I started it, I don't know who I was more angry at, her, him. I don't even think it mattered, but I was really angry, and I was really angry at both of them. And I couldn't believe that she was so weak that she would let that man come back. And that's the way I perceived her for all of those years, until my husband left. And when my husband left and I let him come back, I understood for the first time. I was able to forgive my mom. After like 15 years of sobriety, I could forgive my mom and totally understand why she did what she did. Because she loved my dad. Because she loved our family. Because she thought that our family and the love for my father was more important than her pride. And my dad never cheated on her again. He never left us again until they divorced. They divorced the year I got sober. They got divorced. I was way an adult by then, But I never understood. I never understood what my mom was doing or why she did what she did. And so she let him come home, and they went away on this weekend, and they went to Las Vegas because they're going to rekindle their relationship or whatever. And I'm so angry. So that Friday night, we're at a performance for marching band, and we bring booze, and we get drunk, and we get busted because, you're 14. 14-year-olds are not really holding it together. And but everybody's parents are there when we get back from Simi Valley. Everybody's parents are there to pick them up except for mine, because my parents are out of town. So I have to tell them on Sunday night when they get home before the school calls on Monday. Because you can't let the school just call and be like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Because then it just makes it worse. So I don't really know how to go about handling this situation. But I decide, the idea comes to me, that I should have a butcher knife handy when I tell them about this debacle that happened on Friday. And so I put it in the, behind me. There's a placemat. I cover it, right? My parents get home. They're so happy. They're talking to my grandma about what a great weekend it was, and look at all the, buckets of quarters came back with them and all of that. And so there's a little pause in the conversation, and I say, hey, I just want to let you know the school's going to call tomorrow. They're going to let you know that I was drunk on Friday, and they're probably going to kick me off the flag team. So I'm just giving you a heads up. I paraphrase, of course. I was 14. It probably sounded nothing like that. It's probably a lot of like, so like they're going to call, and it was like the 80s, and so, and so they're standing there and they're looking at me, and I can't even give them time to process. The book talks about to pause when agitated or doubtful. And so I don't know how to pause. I think my pause button is broken. I still think it's broken. I don't know how to, a couple of years ago, I started writing a little P on my hand in my classroom because I would launch into a 10-year-old, like I just, and I'm tall, I'm a big girl, so I can loom over them, and really. So I started writing a little P on my hand, and my girls were asking me, they're like, what's that little P for? And I said, well, it's to remind me to, to pause and like be, be patient. And they're like, playful? And I'm like, oh, yeah. And so we make up this whole list of words. We put it on yellow paper. We post it up in Mrs. Barretto's eyesight so that, I can see it at all times. And then I notice a few days later, my little girls have little P's written on their hands because they'll do whatever I do. If I'm a jackass in class, so are they. I'm the ruler of that room. I don't care if there's 35 of them and one of me. I am the boss supreme in there. So if Mama ain't happy, no one's happy. And I figured that out pretty quickly after I started teaching. I mean, I was sober when I started teaching, but I figured that out. So anyway, so they have their little P's on. And so I'm getting ready to launch into a 10-year-old. I've shot my 11s at them like numerous times. Stop doing that. I've talked to them. Put the pencil down. Quit tapping. Stop doing that. And I just keep going and going on. They're still on and on and on. And so body language will dictate that I'm getting ready to, so I'm getting ready, and I'm just from the back of the room, Mercedes jumps up and she's like, Mrs. Barretto, pause! How can you not stop after that, right? There's no yell, you have to laugh and be like, okay, I just wanted to tote her around with me everywhere after that. Do you want to go grocery shopping with me? Because there's this lady in the 10 items or less line. I need you to help me. So, but I don't know how to do those things on my own, and I certainly don't know how to do those things without asking God to help me. Certainly, and it's a lot of practice. It's not just about like, okay, we're going to work the steps. It's practical application. I have to apply the things that I've learned. I can't just roar through the steps. We have a group in our community that they take their people through the steps in like days, and they're like, I have 30 days of sobriety and I'm sponsoring people. I'm like, ooh, how dangerous, Like, how do you have any experience with the steps? You might have, like, you've read them, you've done a little inventory, you said sorry to a few people who were probably still smarting from your injustices, but, let's move on. And I said, wow, that's just crazy. I was probably 2 years sober before anybody even wanted what I had. I used to tell my sponsor, I'm like, nobody's asking me to sponsor them. They obviously don't want what I have. It's very dramatic. And she's like, it'll come in time. It'll come in time. Just so, you're okay. So I don't know how to pause. I don't know how to let those moments, when you do 9-step, I don't know how everybody does theirs, but I know with mine, I had to write out everything I was going to say to the people I was making amends to so that I could get the, like, yay, or the, ooh, you're not saying that, to the people I was getting from my sponsor, right? So I wrote everything out, and so then that way, and then she'd be like, no, that's good, and that's what you're going to say. And she's like, and then when you're done talking, saying just that on the car, you're not going to say anything else. Nothing else. Not another word. And I'd be like, nothing? Nothing. Not even like if I said, what if they don't respond right away? She's like, you're to say nothing. Nothing? Nothing. Okay. And, but those moments are long and they're deafening, and why aren't they talking? And I don't, why aren't they saying something? And that's what happened that day is my parents are standing there and they're looking at me with, again, I'm having, like, we just were in the principal's office like 6 months earlier with the exact same thing. And here I am telling them the exact same thing. I was drunk, and they're looking at me and I can't let them pause. And now I swear to God, like maybe 15 seconds has gone by and nobody has said anything. I don't know what to do with all of that. And I remember I have the butcher knife. Bing! And I reach behind me and I whip it out. And I would like to tell you that I was drunk when all this happened, but I wasn't. These are my good ideas. These are the ideas that I have on how I should diffuse a situation. Nobody has done anything that would even warrant bringing a knife to the fight, because there isn't one. And I don't even know where I get that. We're not knife people. Like, that's not who my family is. I don't know where I even come up with this idea that this is the way that I should react to something that I have done. I did this. Nobody did this to me. I did this. And then I never think through anything, so I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I have no intentions of stabbing anybody. You know, I'm not. And I'm just standing there, and then all of a sudden that, like, did she say she was drunk, goes to pitiful and incompetent. It's like, is she pulling a knife on us? So all I can think of is, like, throw it and run. Throw it and run. So I throw it to the side and I run, and my dad is like, you know, and woo. And we were not a violent family, but man, my dad beat me that night. Oh my God. Because I can't even fathom Ezra pulling a knife on me at 13 years old, 14 years old, and being like, oh, that's okay. You know, let's let him go to his room. Let him figure out his consequences. But that's the way the bulk of my drinking career would go. Like, it's not, but that, I wasn't drunk when any of that story happened. But to me, that is one of those defining moments in my life where it shows that my thinking is not okay. My thinking is not normal. My reaction to things is not okay. And it would present itself like that all the way through until I got sober and well into my sobriety. You know, I don't know who the people are that come into AA. You know, they don't have to work steps. I can tell you how great. Because I have friends now. And so friends, and friends. I have disliked most of you most of the time. I have not been all that excited about, oh my God, if I have to hear. Now, I've become the person in the meeting that I'm sure, like, if that bitch shares one more time, I'm going to, you know. And of course, my head says, well, somebody has to share with depth and weight. You know, so. Because I'm so full of myself. So, and then I would spend, you know, 16 years old, I lost my virginity drunk to a stranger. 21 years old, I went away to San Diego State University, and I went there specifically because it was ranked top 3 in Playboy as a party school. I was there one time for one weekend. I was drunk the whole time, and I'm like, I'm going here. And that's the way everything would go. I'm going here. These are my friends. You know, whoever liked to drink like I did, that's where I went. If the drinking looked like my drinking, then we were going to be like BFFs, you know, until we beat each other up later. But, so my last 3 years of drinking, I call my sofa tour of 95, 96, and 97, because if you had a couch, I was sleeping on it in the greater Tehachapi, Bakersfield, Lancaster areas. And that is all I would do, is I would drink and move and drink, because people eventually get really tired of you. My people, you know, and the thing about it is the book talks about that we forget the pain and suffering of a week or a month ago. So do our people. If you put enough time between your last debacle and them, they'll forget too sometimes, and they'll let you come on back. And so you'll end up on their couch again, and then you'll do something, and then they'll be like, oh, that's right. That's why we put her out last time. You know, and I think there has to be nothing more difficult for the people that love us the most to have to ask us to leave their homes. And we place people into positions like that. The people that love us the most are the ones that we have to ask them to take that and say, you have to go. You can't live here anymore. You can't do that in this house. You know, and that's where I took my people to. My friends, my family, and then towards the end, I just chose a lot of friends that weren't really friends. They were very fair weather. They liked to drink like I did. I didn't even really like them. I don't know who the people are that, you know, it's like, well, I didn't really like my friends. You know, who does that? You know, if I don't like somebody today, I don't hang out with them, but I'll hang out with people who like to drink like I do, because maybe they have some money, right? I can't work anymore because, you know, they want you to show up on time. They want you to do a job. They want you to not steal from the cash register, stuff like that, you know. And I did a lot of food service in the tail end of my drinking, and I was not a good worker. You know, I'd be like, you know, supposed to be your counter person. I worked at this place called the Burger Spot in Tehachapi, and their menu was real simple, like burgers and fries and drinks. Oh, my. I mean, it was just, you know, it was real simple. It's like an In-N-Out menu, right? And people would come in to order, and I remember this one time, they're standing there and they're like, oh gosh, what do we want? And I'm like, I don't know, is it a burger you seek here at the burger spot? Is that what you're looking for? Because I can't even speak to, because I'm so resentful about having to wait on you at this job that I think is beneath me anyway, but I'm only doing it because I'm going to steal out of your cash register, walk across the parking lot to B&B Liquor, pick up 2 tall cans for the walk home, for the couch that I sleep on, and this is my life. And the book talks about our drinking life becoming the only normal thing we know. And this is it. And I'm totally okay with it. It becomes okay. It becomes okay. And I remember I was living in a fifth wheel next to somebody's house with no electricity and my pet rat, and begging my parents to come home again. And there's rules attached. I need to go back to school. I need to get a job, and I need to not be drinking. And I've lost the power of choice in regards to my drink. I don't know how to go a day without drinking. I don't know what one does if they're not drinking. I am restless, irritable, and discontented until I can get the sense of ease and comfort that's going to come at once. I don't even have to be drinking yet. I remember the first time I met my friend Gil, and he was like, they're strangers. I don't know who they are. And he's like, we should go get beer. And I'm like a Pavlovian dog. My mom has Pomeranian dogs. You know, they're small, and she likes to tease them with like, do you want to eat? Like, she teases them and like shows them the can of food, and they get all, you know, they're all like, you know, and they jump around and stuff. And she just like shows them the can and taunts them with it. And that's the way I am with, do you want to go get beer? I'm like a little Pomeranian inside, and I'm jumping around, and, you know, they're taunting me with a can, and, you know, and I'm just like, oh my God. And I am like a Pavlovian, like my mouth, like even right now, my mouth is salivating a little bit, you know, you know, and I'm just like, you know, ring the bell, ding, salivate. It's like, do you want to go get beer? Oh, and, like I'm already in the car, head out the window, you know, just like, woo! And all I can think of is that we're standing at the beer cooler at the AM/PM, and Gil says, we should get a case of beer. I'm like, yeah, because I'm all about math when I'm drinking. So, like, I know there's only 5 of us back at the pad, so I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing math. You know, in our math book at school, they have boxes they're called real-world math problems, and they're not. I taught gifted kids for a couple of years, and I'd have to have them reason them out for me because I'm not gifted. And I'd be like, you know, hey, Ron, how do you do this? And, you know, and they'd be, oh, yeah, well, that's blah, blah. Because I think a real-world math problem sounds like this. Shalaby and 5 of her friends get a case of beer. How many beers will each one get? I'd have been like, oh, I would have been so much better at math, you know? Because I would have been like, oh, that's a division problem, and there's going to be a fraction left over at the end. Like, I would have been right on that. And that's all I'm doing. I'm thinking about how many beers I'm going to get. And then I'm thinking about how I can make the other 4 people go away. You know? And that's where drinking had taken me to. That's how I feel about the drink. And so I was sitting at the table with my mom one night. It was right after Christmas, and she tells I'm drunk, and because I was drunk all the time, and she liked to bring that to my attention. When did I think that I wasn't intoxicated? You know, just because I didn't have a drink in hand didn't mean it still wasn't coursing through my veins. And so she said to me, you know, you need laundry list of things that I need to do. And I say, I know. And I have no intentions of doing any of them. And I tell her, I said, if I'm not drinking, my life is really going to suck, and I'm not going to have any friends, and I'm not going to be funny. And she said, first of all, Shalaby, it's very sad if you think that alcohol has made you the person that you are, because if anything, it's taken that person away. And second of all, you haven't been funny in a really long time. My mom was quick. She always said real quick little, oh, I hated her. I wanted to know when I got sober, where was the chapter to the moms? Where was that? Where was that chapter? I was a little annoyed that, oh, the family afterward. No, chapter to the moms. Oh, chapter to the wives. Moms. I don't. And so I told her I wouldn't drink, and I tried. I tried to not drink, and I did not drink for 2 days, and that restless, irritable, and discontented madness came on me, and I drank on the 3rd day, and I was drinking with a guy that I thought was a troll. I was drinking with a guy that I wouldn't let touch me with a 10-foot pole, and he was one of those guys who's like, hey, Shalaby, I had quite a reputation that I totally deserved. And, the book talks about we have one that we don't necessarily, I had one that I deserved. And, but I don't even know I have it. Like, I don't even know the drunken, slut that I've become. Like, I'm so oblivious to it because I think I do as I want. This is how I want to be. Challenge me. I'll show you. And, so yeah, I think this guy's a troll, and the next thing I know, I'm hanging off the bumper to pee, thinking about, how my life is. And I jump back in the truck, and we're talking for a hot minute, and then the next thing when lights flicker, I call them brownouts, they just zzz, and then they come, because I didn't have blackouts, just brownouts, just I would lose moments, but not whole nights or events or anything. But I'm talking to the troll 1 minute, and then lights flicker, zzz, brownout, and then, naked. And I was like, oh, how'd that happen? And, well, we're already here, And so he dropped me off at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I shuffled on in, and I passed out, and I waited the next day because I know that I'm going to be busted. They're probably going to put me on restriction. And when you're 27, none of those things happen to you. You're not getting, because I think like a child. I act like a child. My behavior is like a child. I'm like a teenager, and that's the way I think, and I still think that's how I'm going to be treated. And what ends up happening is that my mom kicks me out, and I'm going to go. And then I had a moment of clarity. The book talks about it as a jumping off place where you can't see your life with alcohol and you can't see your life without it. And that's exactly where I was at that moment. And I was crying, and then she was crying, so it's always good. They're going to let you stay. And when you can reduce your family to tears, I found my in. And she did let me stay that day. And I asked her why, and she said I was coming up on a year of sobriety, and she said that because she felt like I was an animal trapped in a cage, and that she was hoping that this would be the day I would let myself out. And I believe God let me out of the cage that day because I took action. And the book talks about we have action and more action. There's lots of action that we have to take around here, and in that action is where I have found my relationship with God. Because I am a doer and not a beer, I have had to do a lot of action in order to know what commitment is, to know what it means to suit up and show up, to be on time for things, to be true to my word, that if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Even if I've overcommitted myself. That I don't side-click the people that I sponsor, I don't side-click my own sponsor. That I give my husband a break, that he is not my alpha and omega. Because I was trying to make him make me happy because we couldn't have a baby, because it was such a struggle, and it became my single-minded obsession like alcohol had, and I don't know how. It has to be the grace of God that I did not drink during that time, and it has to be, and it's the only thing that it can be, because I should have been drunk. I should have been drunk, knowing where I came from to where I am today. And getting to a place of not being of service to Alcoholics Anonymous. Luckily I've always gone to meetings, and I'm not like meeting makers make it. I see plenty of people that go to meetings and they don't see our way of life, probably because maybe they're not a real alcoholic, or they don't even know what that means, or nobody has taken them through the work in a real way. If you think yourself addict, remove the addict part and look at your alcoholism. See if maybe you did a little drinking in there. And seeing if that maybe didn't contribute to where you're at today, because that's going to keep cutting you off over and over again. Not my experience, but it's the thing that I keep seeing, because I've tried to sponsor the addict, and I can't make you something that you are not. I cannot make you be alcoholic. I cannot make that happen for you. You have to find your right place. Crappy beer got me here. That's what got me to Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the ice beers. I was looking at pictures. I can't post them for Throwback Thursday because I have too many students on my Facebook, and they'll be like, Mrs. Barretto, why are there Zimas? They wouldn't even know what that is. But what are all those beers? Because every picture I have is like, king, it was like my boyfriend. And so, but I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for the life that I have today. And so if there are people that were here this weekend judging me because I brought the baby, that's okay, because I used to judge you if you brought your baby. I mean, I can't believe they brought their baby to the meeting. Who brings their baby to the meeting? I do. I brought my baby to the meeting. And, and what a difference a day makes. what a difference a day makes. And I'll tell you right now that before my husband and I got back together, that there were some things that I had to do, and that was to do an inventory on my relationship with him. We didn't just reconcile and everything's been, you know, there was work that both of us had to do before we ever came back together. And the one thing that I had to do is that I had to get my place back with God. I had to, there were prayers that I wrote out that I said every single day, and I will tell you right now that when I fall short and days go by without me praying, you know, I feel really grateful that when I met Julie, that I was at a place where she had done this meditation, and all it was the, like, on awakening. Like, it was so simple that I had forgotten what it is that I'm supposed to do on awakening. And I cried through the entire, it's all she did was read out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't all this other stuff. It was out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And how quickly I can forget when I'm getting myself so caught up in, maybe I should read that women's meditation. Maybe I should do this instead. Maybe I should pray on my knees. Maybe I should do that. Why don't you just do what it is that you're supposed to do, the thing, that basic fundamental idea that you have always had since you got here. Quit complicating it. It's always been right there in front of you, and you just want to dodge around it, you know? See, he's telling me, he's like, you have talked for too long. And I just, you know what? I'm so grateful to be sober, and I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and I know, and it's not because I'm so grandiose that I think that we're here to share the good news. We're here to share the good news, and the good news is that I am not drunk today, and that none of us, well, there may be some of us, that did partake this weekend, but I'm just saying for most of us, let's say, that, you know, we're here and we're sober, and what a miraculous thing that is, to be surrounded by a group of people moving in the same direction. And that even when we get off path, that there are people that are there to wrangle us back in if we let them. Thank you guys for being here.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. changes. You can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.